with your host, nationally acclaimed speaker and author, Debbie Georgatos. Ladies, Can We Talk starts now.
Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome, and thank you so much for tuning in to Ladies Can We Talk. This is Debbie Georgatos, and for the next 2 hours in Ladies Can We Talk, we're going to be talking about what I kind of always am talking about in my book and my talks around the country on the show, which is trying to have all of us understand better the goodness and greatness of America, understanding why America is exceptional so that we can preserve its exceptional nature for generations to come, and so we really can preserve all the pieces and parts that all come together that make America so special. Particularly tonight, I want to share with you a really exciting and fun thing I did. I want to talk with you about the GOP debates in Cleveland, and I think this is for the presidential candidates in Cleveland, and as you likely know, there were actually two debates. There was a 5 o'clock debate for 7 of the candidates who did not make the top 10 list in terms of polling results, and then there was a debate at 9 o'clock in Cleveland, and that was on this past Thursday, of the top 10 people who were in their poll results. And what was really special, I got to be in Cleveland this week at the invitation of Fox News Radio. I was a political analyst for the Fox News Radio stations around the country on the debate. It was a very interesting kind of inside look at the debate, and I really enjoyed that. I want to share that with you. And then I flew from Cleveland down to Atlanta to the Red State Conference, and that has been a lot in the news this week. I think a little bit of the discovery or the conversation about it has been a bit sensational, and I don't really want to talk about that part of it. But I want to talk about in this first segment of the show, where I always do my Speak Up for America segment, I want to talk a little bit about the importance of this presidential race. And I'll put a comma there and say, please stay tuned, because we have, at 6:15 tonight, we have Lieutenant Colonel Alan West in the studio. He'll be joining us for about half an hour. And then the second hour tonight, I have my leading ladies and good buddies, Mari Sullivan and Lori Medina, and they'll be with me the second hour. And we also have, during the second hour, Tom Giovanetti, who is the president of IPI, and he's going to call in to explain to us what is happening with the FCC takeover of the internet. And the reason I want to talk about that is this. In this era of President Obama, we have one assault after the next on liberty. And sometimes so many things are happening that we are kind of playing defense and trying to respond to one thing, and the next thing goes on, and things are slipping under the radar. This is one of them. I think it's important to have at least one segment in the next hour talking about what the FCC takeover of the internet is really all about. And mostly, though, we'll be talking about the debates and about the issues facing America and what the different candidates said. I do want to share a lot of that with you. But my bigger point in this Speak Up for America segment is the idea that America, as I've said other times, was founded on ideas. It was actually founded by conversation, by people in our history debating among themselves about the rights of man. Do we dare stand up against King George? All that kind of stuff. Well, today, right now, these presidential debates are so important because we're looking at who will be elected in 2016 to be the president of the United States at a time we have very significant issues facing America. I ask you to step back from all the politics and kind of gossipy aspect of politics and just think about what you're concerned about. What issues cause you to feel angst? And I'll tell you my short list. I have a longer one, but I'll go with my short one. My short one is, number one, dealing with the international threat of radical Islam. That is one of the overwhelming threats facing America, not just America, but really the security of the free world, of the Christian world, is the spread of radical Islam, the threat, and that ties into what's happening on the Iranian deal with, we had President Obama and others negotiating with Iran. And I think most experts looking at this are saying we kind of negotiated to give Iran access to nuclear weapons before very long. It's a terrible deal pending before Congress. We're going to talk with Lieutenant Colonel Alan West about that in a moment. But radical Islam is a huge threat. Another one, it's a little less it's a little more amorphous, but there's a sense in America we're losing kind of the identity of America as a unique, free market, free people country where it was the self-reliant, American spirit and the can-do attitude that we can handle this, America can take on anything, that whole attitude is being lost as dependence on the government grows and grows, as America has a larger and larger segment of society not only dependent on government, but feeling kind of entitled to have government take care of them. In fact, one particular example of that we'll talk with Tom Giovanetti about in the next hour. The FCC took over the internet recently. There was actually a protest outside the FCC of people demanding better, faster, cheaper internet. This is just the modern version of demanding a free lunch. It is government must take care of me, and all these things I want cost nothing, and the government must give that to me. This is an attack on this self-reliant, can-do, free market, liberty-based, we the people own the rights kind of society. There's a loss of American identity that needs to be reinstated and reinvigorated in the people. There's another whole issue relating to the economy, and that's just, it's a combination of, because we have the government growing larger and larger and regulating more and controlling more, we actually have more small businesses closing than opening, first time in American history. We have job opportunities lacking for young people. We have, you can throw out the percentage rates about labor force participation rates very low, but it's really just a sense that the free market isn't creating jobs, and compounded with, we have an immigration program that's bringing more and more people to America, not legally, but they get here and they need jobs, and employers want to give them jobs. So we've lost this whole robustness of the American economy. We have a terrible low growth rate, which is unhealthy for America's economy. But it's the bigger thing of, we don't have enough people understanding what free markets are based on, that free markets actually require the rule of law. They require government to stay out of the economy. They require to enable and encourage an entrepreneurial spirit. That's another just big and just consequential issue. And the reason I invited you to think of the issues you care about, because, and I could mention many more. We have the Supreme Court just redefined marriage after 3,000 or 4,000 years of marriage being a particular one man, one woman. And that's what marriage has been in America. Contrasted with other countries, Muslim countries, where a man can have many wives. We don't have that here. We have man and woman, and that's marriage. And we have the Supreme Court redefining that. We have recent videos out that show that Planned Parenthood is actually engaged in the dissection of fetuses, of babies in the womb, and selling of those parts. We had just the profound disrespect for life portrayed by that. And so all these things are happening in America, and who we choose as a president in the next election cycle is going to make a big difference, because what you really want is someone who understands all of those things and understands they're important. And we have 17 presidential candidates on the Republican side. I certainly have my short list of favorites. We're going to talk more about them, but it's important that you think not just about, who looked the best or had the best, zinger closing argument, but who touches your heart, who gets what you're talking about, and one more, what you're concerned about. And one more issue I want to share with you is this. There is a rising awareness in America that maybe historically it used to be in the political arena, Republicans versus Democrats, you could call it, conservatives versus liberals. But today in the political scene in America, what's really happening is that we have evolved in Washington a ruling elite class, very much like the King George ruling elite class we tried to overthrow with the revolution. That's where we are in America. And that ruling elite class is composed of Democrats and Republicans. And they have locked arms with lobbyists. They have locked arms with their crony capitalist buddies tied in with the chambers of commerce. And they're no longer working for we the people, for you the people. They're working for the best interests of these crony supporters of theirs. And I want to find a candidate who gets that, who sees that, who's willing to take the very strong steps it will take to undo that. Because otherwise, all the work you do, all the campaigns you work on, all the doors you knock on, all the speeches you make, all the meetings you go to and rallies you go to, they're not going to make any difference at all if the person you elect joins the ruling elite class the moment they arrive in Washington, or frankly is a member of the ruling elite class and doesn't mind being that in that status. This is a really consequential time in America because the American left is marching this country. It's no longer a slow, silent march. It's a very open, overt march towards socialism, toward government-controlled society. Obamacare is a version of socialism. And government control over more and more aspects of society, of the energy sector, certainly Obamacare and the entire healthcare sector in America. We have a growing, powerful federal government that's inconsistent with freedom and liberty and free markets and the can-do American spirit. This march towards socialism is now more overt than ever. It's more obvious, but it takes someone brave to call it that, to say they're willing to stand up against it, to fight against it, because ultimately what you want is somebody in Washington who's going to listen to we the people, getting back to that idea that we hold the power. We choose our leaders, and when we choose our leaders, we expect them to do the will of the people. So this is my Speak Up for America moment in this show, this Sunday evening, and we're going to zip off to our first break. And when we come back from the break, we have Lieutenant Colonel Alan West here in the studio, and I'm going to talk a bunch of interesting things with him in the next half an hour or so. And after that, in the second hour, we have my leading ladies, Lori Medina, Mari Sullivan. This is Debbie Georgatos, and Ladies Can We Talk on 660 AM, The Answer. Come on back after our break.
This is 660 AM. The Answer.